Okay, got it. Before we get started, members, pursuant to the governor's emergency proclamation dated October 1st, 2021, related to the COVID-19 response. First of all, is anyone present with you? Okay, thank you. I take a non-response for no. Additionally, pursuant to the governor's emergency proclamation, we will be meeting remotely using interactive conference technology. So with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and it's now 9:20. Next we have roll call and a determination of quorum. Lori, can you call the roll?
All right, well, Commissioner Kusaka,
Present.
Commissioner Ni'i, or are we, what are we, council members? I don't know what we are. Advisory Council Member Kusaka is present. Advisory Council Member Ni'i, I think is absent for now. I'm here, and Chair Marita.
Here. Okay,
And then
thank
we'll
you.
note all the other staff that's here as well.
Okay, thank you, Lori. So we do have quorum right now, and the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of September 29, 2021. And those minutes have been circulated. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting, prior meeting. What was that date?
September 29th.
September 29th.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and second that we approve the minutes for the meeting of September 29th, 2021. Are there any objections? Okay, hearing none, the minutes have been approved. The next item on the agenda. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the review and discussion of proposed legislative redistricting plans by the Technical Committee Interaction Group. And so the either is it Royce or David that will be doing the presentation?
Yeah, I'm right in the middle of the book.
It looks like David might be on the phone right now. So yeah, what we've done is recorded just a short video with some introductory slides.
Okay.
Just to so you can see a little bit more detail than what we presented at the commission meeting. And then we do have Commissioner Rathbun on here also, and he's with the technical group. And so we'll see after the short video presentation, which I think David's going to queue up and play. No? Yes?
Dread. I've lost it.
While we're doing that, Chris was having a hard time getting in. I resent him the link, so he should be trying to join soon.
He
Oh, yeah.
There he
is.
is. There he is.
Okay, great. Thank you. So can the minutes reflect the presence of Council Member Ni'i?
Yes, got it.
And let's see. So
So are we ready to go finally?
okay, and I just before you get started, I also want to note the presence. I believe this is Commissioner Nishimura joining us right now.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you, David. Go ahead.
David, if you're having problems, I can try to share the video. I don't see it yet. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, David, should we
Yes,
turn it over to Kim?
sure.
Okay. There we go.
We have a few slides to share with you about the technical group's proposed Kauai House redistricting plan. Some of these slides were shared at the last commission meeting on October 14th. Since this is the Kauai Advisory Council, we've added a bit more detail than was presented at that full commission meeting. But just reviewing the steps that we're going through on these legislative plans with the census data that has been completed, reapportionment's been completed, and we're partway through redistricting. In other words, coming up with new district boundaries, new legislative plans that in the end will be used in the 2022 elections. So the technical group did present these plans at the last commission meeting. We're going to show you those plans in a moment. But first, let's talk about what it's based on. It is the census, and it is the most detailed census data. The Census Bureau reports data at different levels, statewide, by county, by census tracts you may have heard of, block groups. For our purposes, for reapportionment and redistricting, we use census population at the most detailed level, the census block level. And if we look then at the population growth from 2010 to 2020 for the Kauai Basic Island Unit, we see that indeed, just like the other Basic Island units grew, Kauai's population grew in the last 10 years from 66,805 to 72,997. That's a 9.27% increase. If we look at the target column, in other words, what's the ideal population, we can see that the ideal has also grown because the population has grown. So our target 10 years ago was 22,268. The target in 2020, in other words, the ideal is 24,332. So average growth, 9.27 for the Basic Island Unit. But if we look down at the different house districts, we can see the population grew by different amounts. And we know these numbers now because we have the census block data within each house district. We can add it up and know the total population in that house district, and then therefore the percent increase. So we see House 15 with 24,924 people is actually grew faster than the average. It grew at 14% over the last 10 years, whereas the overall Basic Island Unit grew at 9.27%. We also know that House 14 and 16 grew below that average. And in fact, if we go look then at how many people that is actually above and below the target, we see House 15 is 592 people above that ideal target. Again, this is the 2020 population within the current district boundaries, the 2011 to 2020 district boundaries. House 15 is 592 above that ideal, or 2.43% above. And if we look at House 16, we see it's 536 below, and that is the lowest, minus 2.2%. And it's the difference then between that highest and lowest that gives us our overall Basic Island Unit deviation of 4.63%. And so that is the overall deviation that the technical group began working with, the current district boundaries of 2020 population for all of the different Basic Island units. You can see here a summary of the deviations of the current districts, and then the deviation after the technical group worked to redistrict them, and as they proposed at the last commission meeting on October 14th. And we can see Kauai House, that 4.63% that we were just talking about, The technical group has brought that down to 0.48%, much closer to equal representation. Now we should also note the technical group in doing this work did follow all the other standards and criteria where practicable. Their main goal was to get the deviation down, which interestingly is already at 4.63%. Even the current plan is lower than the 10% that's been upheld, but nonetheless is quite a bit above the ideal. So the technical group did work with the Kauai House to bring that overall basic island unit deviation down to 0.48%. And that's what we'll be showing you here in the presentation, is how they did that. So they did it working at the block level. They needed to get some census blocks that had been assigned to House 15, that has 592 people above, and assign those census blocks instead to House 16, which is 536 below the average. So that can bring both of them closer to that ideal target. And again, down below, you can see a couple screen captures from the Hawaii Redistricting online application, where they set for the redistricting to assign blocks to House 16, and they are working indeed at the selection level block, the most detailed census block level. And they did use, the technical group used Hawaii Redistricting Online. This is the same set of data and tools that's available for members of the public who are interested in working with designing their own redistricting plans. So let's look here and compare the current, and that's the 4.63% we can see on the map here now. House 15, 592 over, House 16, 536 below. We can see on the right-hand side how those were improved. In fact, we can see for House 15, went from 592 above the ideal down to only 61 above the ideal. Again, this was done by assigning census blocks that had been in House 15 to House 16. So they were assigned from 15 to House 16. And likewise, if we look at the House 16 numbers, we see that under the current districts, it was 536 below. Under the technical group's proposed plan, it's almost exactly equal. It's just -5 below that ideal target, or 0.02%. And if you do the math and look at the difference between those two numbers, you see that same value, 531, because that is the census population of those blocks that were assigned from House 15 and now assigned to House 16 by the technical group. So how did they do this? Where were these census blocks that they assigned this way? Well, you guys know the geography between House 15 and 16, a lot of it's ridge lines. So there's not really any work they could do there. Their work instead focused down in the area around the highway, the area around Ama'o. Zoomed in, look at it in a little more detail. You can see the boundaries of the current districts there on the left. House 15, again, 2.43% over. House 16, 2.2% under. And then under the proposed plan from the technical group, House 15 is now only 61 over, and House 15, and House 16 is only 5 under. And you can see now the revised line under the proposed group. And if we want to look at a little more detail, those 531, where did they actually come from? Here is zoomed in to see the census blocks themselves. So each of those black outlined areas is a census block with its population that was assigned from House 15 to House 16. So you see them all there shaded in that kind of pinkish color, and you can see each of the individual numbers. If you add them up, 123 plus 136 plus 139 plus 122 plus 7 plus 4, you should get 531. those are the blocks that were changed, that were assigned by the technical group to bring that deviation from 4.63% down to 0.48%. I'm going to come back to this map in a moment, but just to point out, census blocks are quite interesting, and the shapes of them. I've outlined one here in blue. This is a census block with total population of 122. That is all one census block. Even though it looks like it might be two, it has a very strange shape. Some census blocks do, particularly those that follow streams as part of their boundaries. And this is a prime example. And sometimes that drives the shapes of the districts and the changes that the technical group could make when you start getting these interestingly shaped census blocks. So indeed, the technical group did use the Hawaii Redistricting online application. If you have used it or want to use it, it is available now. The technical group's plan, you can go in and look at it. It's called TG Kauai House for HRC 1014. And you can look at it in detail with the Redistricting online application, which does require a login. But there's also some interactive maps that don't require a login. They're not made for changing plans. They're just made so you can zoom in and see the differences between the current plan and the technical group's proposed plan. If there's time and interest in the meeting, we can try and show you how this interactive map works. But I want to finish and leave this slide up on the screen because this is probably where the initial interest is for you to be able to look at this. How did the boundaries change between the dashed boundary down below the current boundary and the solid black boundary that's being proposed by the technical group and the census blocks that were assigned from House 15 to 16. So with that, I'll leave this slide up here and open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council members?
Is this a suggestion, Mina, or is this or just a recommendation for redistricting House 16, adding these numbers?
Right. This is the proposal that came out of the Reapportionment Commission Technical Working Group, which Commissioner Rathbun was a member of. And so this is what was proposed to the commission as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding, this is what is going out for public hearing.
I see.
When we meet when they meet on Kauai on November 23rd.
Okay, and I have another question. The other districts remain the same?
Yes, 14 remains the same. And so this just impacts 15 and 16.
Only because 15 will get less numbers and the numbers, the area goes to 16.
Yeah.
In order to balance 15's numbers.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
All right, I understand it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Rathbun, do you have any comments you'd like to make, being on the technical committee?
Yeah, if there's concerns with what we did, that we vote on this on the 28th, then it goes out for public comment. Your meeting's already scheduled. If there are concerns, my understanding is you are the group that could feed that back to us so that we could take a look at, we didn't intentionally cut anybody out or try to split up. We just did the mandate that the census and the charter required us to balance out the numbers. So we would get back your comments after the public hearing. It's in November 23rd. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
And then it will be everybody's comments, all the islands, and we will take that back to the technical committee and see if there's something we can do. We can't we can't break up a census block. We can't cross through one district to get to the other district. So there are some constraints on us when we do this. And, you know, Royce pointed out that 122 number. We're told not to make quote unquote salamander districts. Look, that's a classic example of one, but that's what the census block is. So we can't change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and Kauai was much easier to do than the other islands. Your numbers were not as large as, like, you know, Oahu, for instance. It was just incredibly unbelievable.
Right.
We're here to listen. We're here. That's why I'm here today, and with Royce and David to help see if we can't. And Randy's here. He's on the commission too. So
yeah,
we don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to cause any conflict. And if there's factual issues that can be brought back to us, we're certainly going to take the list of notes that Royce and David compile and start this and look at each island and what our work did already and see if we can accommodate. I guess that would be the way to. No promises though, because we, like I said, a lot of people don't understand about breaking up the census lines or crossing somebody else's district to get to your own.
Right. Commissioner Nishimura, do you have any comments you want to make?
Let me try to do this. Can you hear me? Hang on a second.
Oops.
Chair, while
Yes.
we're waiting for Randy, I have a question. The numbers included in the division area, are those population numbers like 136, 139, 123, 122, population
Yes.
numbers?
Within
Yes.
each of those census blocks, yes.
Okay. That's a really big district for, you know, for a person to cover with respect to representation from Omao, all this district in Omao, additional to up to Waimea Kekaha. It's a huge district to cover. But if we go by population, then yeah, so
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, Mina, you're still getting it, right?
You're echoing.
I'm getting the same issue I had the last time. Let me try something.
Okay.
Randy, are you on your computer and your phone? You're muted completely now.
Well, while we're waiting for him, Lori, Chris, you have any questions?
No, I mean, I think Omao and Koloa were already kind of split between 15 and 16. Now it's
Yeah.
just gonna be, you know, a little bit more in, I think
16.
almost all of Koloa will be in 16 now, and it's just Omao that's kind of split.
Yeah, and I believe in that Omao area, those are just the roads off of Kamuali'i Highway. And I believe when I saw the census blocks in that area, the numbers were really small. Is that correct, David or Royce? That those
In
streets.
the other
off-
census blocks
Yeah,
around it.
yeah, the
Yeah,
numbers
I
are.
didn't put those on this particular map, but
Mhm.
let me just try something here. So did the screen just change and you see now Kauai and
Yes.
Ni'ihau?
Yes.
So this is the interactive map that is available. You don't need to log in to use it. The link is on the reapportionment website. So with this, I can go zoom in. So this is the current, we're on this tab for the current district. And if I zoom in far enough, it will turn on all the census blocks. So there we can see there's the 123, 136. But also then we see right here, whoa, 407, okay, but not too many here, 34, 12. So each of those are the numbers. And then with this other tab, when I switch to it, it keeps the same area, but shows me the proposed technical group boundary. So it's similar to the map we were just looking at on the screen, but it has all the detail, right? So this is available for anyone to access without a login. If you want to zoom in even further, right, you can see exactly the streets that are being followed. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Randy, if you're trying to talk, you're still muted.
I'm going to switch back to the other map just because I think it explains it. Where there were changes, right? That's why I made this map, just to highlight these are the only census blocks that were changed.
Okay.
I might add that the technical committee actually looked at two options for Kauai. One was to change nothing, and the other one was to do this. Because the deviations that you have existing are well below the number we need for statewide deviation. So if you wanted to do nothing, you could let us know that.
Randy, any comments? Try again. Can't. Okay. I take the head going back and forth is no. Okay. So members, we have two options in moving forward, or actually three options. One is to support the technical interaction group proposal for Kauai, which brings down the deviation numbers to under 1%. The second option is to propose our own plans, or the third option is to leave it as is. Can we have a discussion on those options? Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with the proposed changes. Like I said earlier, Omao and Koloa were kind of divided to begin with before the changes were made. So this isn't dividing and this isn't dividing anything, any community any further. In fact, I think it's taking almost all of Koloa, well, maybe not, but a good portion of yeah, almost all of Koloa and putting it into 16. So maybe Koloa is not really divided much anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my feeling is looking in anticipation for the next 10 years. And so if we bring down this number, it looks like the growth is pretty much happening in the central part of Kauai. And, and so, kind of proactively dealing with that continuing issue. The only concern I had was about Omao, because no matter what, I think Omao would be, the Omao area was split, but I think this again, just a really small part of Omahu is affected, and that's along the highway, the roads off of the highway. And I went back and I looked at the census blocks, and these are really small numbers in that area. So, I support the technical committee's proposal right now. Mhm. Okay. Any
Gets us
other?
a lot closer, and I know we tried to get it closer last time. I sat on the Kauai, I don't know what group I sat on, Randy and I sat on the same team. And we really couldn't
Mhm.
get it any closer without, it would, every time you went one line over, it was like this huge jump back and forth, it was either gonna be, all in 15 or all in 16, and it was like a big block, almost like the one that you guys earlier when we saw, and I think that's why Commissioner Rathbun said you can't go through a district to get to another district, because I think there's one that is 400 something people. So, if you add that in, it just really shifts the numbers. And I think that's, this actually gets us way closer. I mean, 5 people. Can't get any closer than 5 people. So.
I know earlier when it first came out, I was kind of satisfied as is, because I looked at shifting census blocks, and I just couldn't see how it was going to be done. But this is kind of amazing that the deviation is so low.
I'd like to see the after the public hearing to make my decision. I initially, like Mina, was happy with the way it was. That was my feedback. But this proposal is quite different. There are many people in Koloa-Poipu who, may not appreciate this districting recommendation. So I'd like to see if they come out for the public hearing. If not, then I'm prepared to accept this recommendation. But I'd like to hear what they have to say.
So do we need to, so we're not necessarily making a recommendation before the public hearing? Can we just?
I think we can fashion the motion in a way that we support the technical group taking this plan out to public hearing. I think one of the main things that they want to know is that we're not going to come up with a plan on our own. So, that's off the table. So I think we can be specific in how we make the motion.
That's the motion we need before their October 28th meeting, right?
Yeah, I think they would like some kind of indication on from the advice. After all, we are the advisory committee on, and so I think again, we will have the minutes available to them indicating Mayor Kusaka's concerns about wanting to hear from the Koloa district. At the present time, we don't have any testimony or any, and correct me if I'm wrong, from the staff. I don't believe we have any proposals from the public for Kauai. There
have not been any. There have not been any. I checked again this morning. There have not been any.
So I again, we can say at this time, I mean, I believe the motion can say at this time, we support the technical committee's proposed plans going out to public hearing.
I can support that.
Okay. Can I have someone make the motion?
Do it. Okay, so I move that we support the technical committee's proposal as the option to move to public hearing. Is that good enough wording?
Yeah, that's good.
I
Can I
second
get
the motion.
Okay, so the motion was made by member Yoshida, second by member Kusaka. Are there any objections? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I have to take a roll call on this. So Lori, can you take the roll on the motion? And I'll restate the motion.
Okay.
Oh, could you read back the motion? Sorry.
Oh, I couldn't type that fast, but since I made it, I should remember, right? So the motion is to support the proposed, the proposal by the technical group to go out to public hearing.
Great. Okay, thank you.
And
Okay,
so Advisory Council Member Kusaka,
Yes,
Advisory Council Member Nii,
Yes.
Chair Marita,
yes.
and myself is a yes, so
Okay, thank you.
unanimous.
Thanks. The next item that I thought it would be important for us to take formal action on is the issue of canoe districts. You know, I know individually, and I've submitted testimony in support of the Reapportionment Commission's decision not to use the concept of canoe districts supporting basic island units, but we haven't taken any we haven't had any discussion by the council members. And so we don't have a position on canoe districts. And I think this is important going forward because if you saw the proposals coming for the other islands, especially Oahu, they're pretty drastic because of the population shifts. And, you know, until we get the process over with, the issue of canoe districts may resurface again. And so I think it's just important that we have this discussion and kind of take a formal position on the issue of canoe districts and basic island units. So can we have some discussion on that? I guess the first issue is do we support the Reapportionment Commission's decision not to consider canoe districts and focus on basic island units?
You want me to do a little explanation on what would happen with canoe districts?
Sure. Thank you, David.
So the normal practice for deviations within the state, all being within ±5 or 10%. In our case, the Constitution says each basic island unit shall be contained within itself. But it doesn't caveat the fact that the statewide deviations all need to be, right? And that's for each house, for the Senate and the House. So right now, Kauai should have 1.5 senators.
Mhm.
And if we went statewide, you would probably have 2.5 House districts, right? So you would need to cobble that population from Kauai to either Oahu or Maui, or even worse, the Big Island, to get those population numbers to get down inside there. So what we've done since 2001 is that we have underserved the Senate and overserved the House. Does that make sense? Rather than having 2.5 House districts cobbled down to one to make a third, we reduced the target for the population of Kauai in the House, so that whatever that population is, we divide it by 3. And then the Senate, there isn't anything to do until you catch up, right? And that's probably take another 30,000. So it's going to be very difficult to do. I mean, it was done before because it was court ordered before. But our decision to forego canoe districts in 2011 was reviewed by the court, and the court said that because the public record, right, against canoe districts was so strong that the court allowed us to have this large deviation now between the basic island units when you compare it to the statewide, yeah. So it would be very nice to have you guys on the record saying no canoe districts. That's all I got.
Okay, well, Mina, as chair, Madam Chair, I am totally against canoe districting. I lived through the last few years when we did have canoe districts. It was difficult for the representation to go from here. It was with Hana and part of Haiku. Now, I come from Hana. It's my base home where I was raised. And I knew the representatives well. They struggled to get to meet all the people. At one time, Mina herself was involved, and her sister lived in Hana. And so her sister really represented her there. They would tell the sister what they wanted to tell Mina. But it was hard to see Mina herself or the representative herself, because Kauai was large enough and took enough time. And because the representatives lived on Kauai, they favored the community there in the North Shore. And so it was really, the other thing that's bad about canoe districts is that it costs the state so much money, because they have to send this representative here and there. And of course, everybody wants to see their representative. So it's hard to be in 2 places at once. It was hard on the representative, and I don't think it was fair to people of Hana, and the people of Kauai had to share, and that's difficult. So for those reasons, I am totally against canoe districts. That's my statement.
Okay. Lori or Chris, any comments?
Yeah, I'm against it, so we'll take a vote if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Lori?
also am against it. In the reverse, when we had the other part of a senator was majority Maui, and then the poor senator would have to come over here to see a part of Kauai, but hear from everybody, because it's not just, in that case, I think it was the North Shore area, Hanalei. I don't even think it went all the way to Kilauea of the Senate district, but then you got to do all of the other organizations that are working on projects like the chamber, like the Economic Development Board. It's not just going to that small community. So there's again, a cost, as well as, you know, even within every island, the communities are different, but it's even harder when you're going from county to county, island to island. They're even, the issues are even more diverse. So I think it's better to just keep it to the island unit. And I think overall, you know, we lose half a Senate district, but we gain a whole, or part of a senator, but we gain a whole, you know, a complete House district. So I think overall we're okay, at least for Kauai. I don't know how that affects everyone else, but I think we're fine. So I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay, so for purposes of disclosure, you know, I represented a canoe district while I was in the legislature. And that was District 12, which was East and North Kauai and East Maui. You know, I cannot tell you how difficult it was. And, you know, I had a really unique situation where, you know, I was born on Lanai, so, you know, I was a Maui County girl. And I worked during school vacations in Hana, so I was familiar with the area. And so my position was unique, and same with the Mayor Kusaka. And her connections to East Maui is very unique in serving on as mayor for Kauai. But you know, there's not many of us around with these kinds of connections that can connect to communities. So you know, a representative has to deal with 2 county councils, 2 mayors, you know, a whole bunch of different issues that are unique to these communities. And, you know, while we put an emphasis in the reapportionment process to be geographically connected communities, when you look at Canoe District, that just blows it out of the water. You know, there were times when I got to Maui only once a month, especially during session, just because logistically it was so difficult. And there were times where I couldn't get a hotel room after my sister moved from Hana. I couldn't get a hotel room out there, or should I say an affordable hotel room out there, which made it more difficult because it meant I was 4 hours on the road trying to get there and return. So, you know, this can happen anywhere, you know, whether they link the Big Island, Hawaii Island to Maui, you know, just the logistics of getting between those 2 islands. It's bad enough and challenging enough that you have one representative representing East Maui, Molokai, and Lanai, you know, even though that's 1 county. And I think, you know, us as Hawaii residents, you know, we connect to our family, we connect to our community, and we connect to our island. You know, to say that there's no rivalries between islands is being really nearsighted. And so, you know, there were at times where I was conflicted between islands. You know, do I do the best for Maui or do I do the best for Kauai? And you know, for those reasons, having experienced it, I'm strongly opposed to canoe districts. Okay. Thanks for letting me ramble on. So, can I get the motion, a motion to support the Reapportionment Commission's decision not to use the concept of canoe districts, but support reapportionment using basic island units?
I so move that we not support canoe districting of any kind. to the commission as a whole. And that the discussion presented herewith would be adding to our reasons and substantiate our decision not to support canoe districts.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Councilmember Kusaka, second by Chris Ni'i, that we support the Reapportionment Commission's decision not to use the concept of canoe districts. Any discussion? Okay, can I have the vote? Member Yoshida, can you call for the vote?
Sure. Advisory Council Member Kusaka,
Yes,
Council Member Ni'i,
Yes.
Chair Marita,
Yes,
and myself is a yes as well. So the motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Is there any other items for discussion? Okay, if none, let's move into the public testimony section of the agenda. I have not received any written testimony. Is there anybody on the line wishing to give testimony? I can't, let me see. I don't see anybody indicating that they have public testimony. Okay. So next item is, well, before we adjourn, I just wanted to, I don't believe a public notice has gone out yet, but just to, there has been discussions about the Kauai portion of the public hearings for reapportionment plans to be set on Kauai for Tuesday, November 23rd at 1 o'clock. That is subject to change until it's posted, but I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. With no other business moving forward, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Hold on, sorry. Do
Sorry.
we want to set another meeting while everybody's on for after the 23rd, or do we want to just do a poll later?
I think that's over a month.
yeah.
We're looking at over a month away. Why don't we just hold off on setting another meeting? Or whether another meeting is necessary, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I so move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mayor Kusaka, the second by Member Ni'i. Are there any objections to adjourning? Hearing none. Thank you, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
You.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for a nice meeting. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.